Hello YouTube and YouTubettes. Today we're going to review the movie Dark City. My name is Rob.
And I'm Jonathan.
And Jonathan, tell us a little bit about this movie Dark City.
Well, Dark City is a dark sci-fi film from 1998 directed by Alex Proyas, who originally directed The Crow. And the screenplay was also written by Proyas along with Lynn Dobbs and David S. Goyer. It stars Rufus Sewell, William Hurt, Kiefer Sutherland, and Jennifer Connelly.
Awesome. So the main character, John Murdoch, wakes up and in the bathtub and doesn't know who he is or how he got there or anything. He doesn't remember anything. But he does find out that he is convicted or accused of murder. And so there's a lot of twists and turns around the way. It's very interesting. So now we'll discuss our favorite things about the movie. All right, Jonathan, who is your favorite actor in the movie?
Well, my favorite actor is Richard O'Brien. A lot of people know him from Rocky Horror Picture Show, but I haven't seen that. But he's also in this. He plays one of the antagonists. He plays a mysterious, creepy, pale-faced man known as Mr. Han, and wears this fedora. A lot of the antagonists wear fedoras, actually. And I just like him just because he really likes chewing the scenery. He likes talking like this, and he says yes after every sentence, and it might not necessarily be, a subtle performance, but that's not what his role required, so he's my personal favorite.
My favorite is Kiefer Sutherland, who was kind of working for the bad guys, but he was also kind of a good guy as well. Because he was doing it out of fear. I think he had fear more than anything, and he really didn't have a choice in the matter. But in the end, he does help the good guys. So, but I think the way he plays the character off is very interesting. I think just kind of an eccentric, kind of like he's been through a lot of trauma. So that's my favorite actor in the movie. Kiefer Sutherland as, who did he play?
Dr. Schreiber.
Yeah, Dr. Schreiber. All right, Jonathan, well, who is your least favorite actor in the movie?
Well, my least favorite would have to be the leads, especially Rufus Sewell and Jennifer Connelly. And it's not because I think they did a bad job. In fact, I think they did what the director wanted them to do. But they just don't stick out. And some of that is part of the movie. They are, in some ways, supposed to be kind of blank slates. They do have personality, but they're just a little bit too normal. I was going to say William Hurt as well, but I actually think he was trying in this movie. He can sometimes be bland Kevin Costner areas, but you could tell he was actually putting effort playing a concerned police detective.
Yeah, I also, except I narrowed it down to Rufus Sewell, the lead. And it's not, again, I don't think he was bad. I think he just, it was just kind of played very blandly, which might have been the direction that they were told to go in. But yeah, Rufus Sewell, yeah, that's who I would say was probably my least favorite, even though I think he wasn't bad. I just don't think he stuck out to me as anything good. All right, favorite scenes now. Spoiler alert now. We're getting into some parts that might spoil it. So what is your favorite scene, Jonathan?
Now, mine is near the end, so this is definitely spoiler alert for those who want to skip ahead and haven't seen it. My favorite scene would have to be when Dr. Schreiber, Kiefer Sutherland's character, basically he gives the main character a way to know how to defeat the antagonists. And the way he does that is that he injects these memories into John Murdoch, the main character, and he inserts himself in there. And so it's a whole lifetime of memories. And he's basically saying, hey, this is how you defeat the bad guys. And I thought, Deus Ex Machina can be a very cheap gimmick, but I kind of thought this was a clever way to find a quick way to have the bad guys defeated.
Yes, and mine is a little bit before that actually, when Kiefer Sutherland shows the agent or the cop and also the main characters um, what is behind the wall and what's the beach, the name of the beach again?
Yeah,
Something
John
Beach.
Murdoch is looking for a beach because that's
Yeah,
apparently where he's
and I
from.
can't remember the name of the beach, but yeah,
Shell
so that
Beach.
Shell Beach, and he's showing him where Shell Beach is, and the reveal is pretty interesting there. Okay, so now overall acting. What did you think of the acting overall, Jonathan?
I think it was appropriate for the movie. It's less. I mean, it is dramatic, but it's more of a science fiction than an Oscar kind of drama. And basically, the main lead characters are supposed to play it straight faced, and they have the character actors and the supporting roles playing it, chewing the scenery a little bit, kind of hamming it up a little bit, especially Kiefer Sutherland and Richard O'Brien. Those are our favorites. But yeah, I think ultimately everyone served their purpose, and I think they did a good job for what they're supposed to do.
So what's the score you give?
I ultimately give it a 7.
All right, so yeah, I have pretty much the same thing that you said, that the actors, for the most part, were kind of supposed to underact, but I give it a 7 out of 10 as well. Now we're going to discuss our favorite, our no, not our favorite, but what we think about the overall production direction of the movie. So Jonathan, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm going to start out with the score. Just say I give it an 8 out of 10. I thought it was excellent. Alex Proyas, in his direction of The Crow, that was also a very darkly lit movie. Like when I said this is a dark sci-fi movie, it's not just because dark's in the title. There's shadows everywhere. It has a very film noir style. Everything looks like it's from the 1940s. But that's more set. But direction, he knows when to make it intimate when he's filming in a room, and he also knows how to make it big, because there are many shots to show this giant city, and I thought he did a good job with it. I give it an 8 though, because the original theatrical cut was, and this was a studio edition, but they added a narration at the beginning so that people wouldn't be confused. But I really felt that narration was a little bit pointless. And that's probably my main big qualm with the overall production. Otherwise, I say it's very good.
Mm-hmm. And I also give it an 8 out of 10. Yeah, I think other than maybe, I think the acting could have been a little more interesting, but other than that, I think the overall direction and production of the movie was pretty solid. All right, visual effects. Jonathan, what do you think about the visual effects?
Well, I think for its time, they were pretty well done. This was in the 90s, and CGI was being used a lot, but definitely wasn't perfected. But the good thing about that, because most of the movie takes place in shadow, a lot of the CG stuff that happens in the movie, just a little tidbit, there are buildings that move around, and that's all CGI. But it's in shadow, so it isn't as obvious. And there are a lot of miniatures used in the movie. And so that gives you a photorealistic quality. But there are definitely some scenes at the end where the CG really shows itself. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
All right, and I give it an 8 out of 10. I think it was pretty solid. I mean, it was around the same time as The Matrix, and so I think The Matrix probably had more financial backing than this one. But I think overall, there was nothing about it that looked really fake, even now, watching it. So I think it was a very good 8 out of 10. How about the writing of the movie? Jonathan, what are your thoughts on how the movie was written?
Okay. I think it was well written. I would give it an 8, because I think there are a couple of moments sometimes, like the antagonists are basically in charge of the city, and there's actually one moment where one of them gets kind of clumsy and kind of dies, and I feel like with the way they're written, something like that shouldn't happen. Now that's just one scene, so that's a big nitpick. And as far as dialogue, like, the story is excellent, the story is top notch. and the characters' motivations and the way they're written. But as far as dialogue is concerned, there isn't a whole lot that stands out to me other than what Richard O'Brien says, the yes kind of thing. But I'll give it 8 out of 10. It's solid.
All right. I give it, when I think of writing, I think of the idea more than specific things, because I like ideas, and even sometimes even some of the lines can be cheesy in movies, but I love the idea. So in this movie, as far as the writing of the movie, I give a 10 out of 10. I think just the whole concept, to me, is what makes this great and why I love it so much. And I don't think any lines stood out to me as necessarily bad that I can recall. Maybe some that weren't great, but I don't think any of the lines were bad, and I think it all made sense. The soundtrack of the movie, Jonathan, what are your thoughts on that?
I think the soundtrack is decent. It lacks some diversity. The main thing that stands out to me is the cue used in the action scenes, particularly during the finale. It really gets you energized. It's very big, and I like that. Not that soundtracks have to be big, but I thought that was good. And some of the soaring music at the end was good, but at the same time, there's nothing else memorable besides that to me. So I give it a 6.5.
All right, overall I give it a 5 out of 10. I don't think the music in general was that, stuck out to me as anything that added much to the movie. That's just my thought on it as well. So 5 out of 10 for me. All right, so now we're going to discuss the meaning or the synopsis of the movie. So Jonathan, tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that, on Dark City.
I think a lot of it is identity versus memory. Like, if you strip someone of their memories and even their personality, are they still a human? Is there still something inside them that makes them a human? The other big thing is, and this kind of goes into spoiler territory, and it's definitely more obvious in movies like The Matrix, Plato's allegory of the cave, where people, what they see, they believe that's reality, when actually it's not.
Yeah, and I find it very interesting, the idea that, there's these aliens that are trying to see what it's like to be human, and they basically, it looks like they kidnapped these humans from Earth and brought them somewhere else. And I think that's very interesting, and so that's my thought. So now we're going to give our overall scores, which is basically average of the scores we gave. So Jonathan, what does your score end up being for Dark City?
Mine gets a 7.3, solid.
And mine gets a 7.6 out of 10. So that is our scores for Dark City, and that is our review. So 7.3 for Jonathan, 7.6 for me, and have a wonderful day.